too cumbersome. So now we have a kit, we call it the Fit Kit, and Gus and I can, whoever wants the kit, we can get you one of these. But it's basically shows you when you're designing a PC board, it could be a board-to-board connector, a wire-to-board connector, or a wire-to-wire connector if it's not on a PC board. But right here, we have everything from a milliamps. I think a lot of you, when you're designing in a board, the first question is, how do you get power to the board? And that's a basic question. And from there, our options are anywhere from a milliamp on this port up to 23 amps. 23 amps might be overkill if you're making something smaller than a fist, but if you're using an uninterrupted power supply, a generator, it's a great option. So I'm going to go through a couple of our, and we have a hard card I'll pass out. I like to say this hard card's faster than the internet, because if somebody asks, hey, I have a I'm using 14 gauge wire, does UltraFit handle it? Look, UltraFit handles 16 through 22, so no, it would not. But right here it shows how many voltage, temperature rating, center spacing, and it also gives you a lot of times a mechanical engineer, you're dealing with space. How much space do you have in whatever your end unit is? So this gives a layout of how it of the mating height when it's mated. Right here is a okay, I didn't want to do that. So right here is the mated height if you're with the when the vertical connector is coming down to the header. So it gives you an idea of actually how big it is. So some of the features, so how technology has changed, I'm going to pass this board around. This is old technology, but it's still very popular. If you need just a signal connector, we have 3-cent connectors, 4-cent connectors, and this is just a signal connector. The one thing here is, if everybody looks, the pins are exposed. So I think if you've used these connectors, if you made it, if you're not looking at it, you can bend the pins. So that is an issue with those connectors. But if you want something very cheap, that's your connector style. We call that cheap, but it works. Yes, you're right. Exactly. So
you call it inexpensive.
Inexpensive, yeah. I'm not supposed to say the word cheap. But in some of the features of the Fit families, and do you mind, Gus, passing around like 2 Fit kits?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Perfect. So if you look at the Fit kits, the pins, we call it anti-scoop proof. So here's a mating connector. If you put it in the wrong way, you cannot damage the pins. The pins are recessed back. So that's a big feature you don't have to worry about, because we all know if this is on a board and you smash it, you might have to rework the board, which is pretty darn expensive. So that's a big feature. Also, one of the nice features here is sometimes, grab a couple of these. You might have a lot of in the air conditioning world, or maybe in the washer machine, or whatever you might be making, you might have 4 of the same connectors right next to each other, 4 white connectors. And a lot of people, you don't want to mismate the connectors. So a lot of customers, what they do is they take our white connectors and they dye them. Green versus green, purple versus purple. But a lot of times you might be mating them, you might not even be looking at them, or you design it here, you outsource it somewhere, and the person, they just mount it, and you could have a lot of issues if you mismate the connectors. So here, in our UltraFit line and our NanoFit line, black mates with black. Here's the exact same connector. It's a white connector, but it's keyed different. So white goes into white, black goes into black. So we also have this in a single row option. So if you had a 4-circuit connector, a 6-circuit, a 2, we have many options. You could have 4 different options. You could have a 4-circuit black dual row, 4-circuit black single row, and a 2 and a white single and dual. So it's 4 options. It gives you, and you never have to worry about mismating. So that's a feature we have. Also, if you're touching the PC board, your finger, you cannot get in. As I said, the pins are recessed. every one has a positive lock. Also, if you look at the terminals, and there's in there's some crimped terminals on the bottom. It's a box style terminal, so they either have 4 points of contact or 6 points of contact. Old technology was like an oval terminal, and if the wire's in there and if it's warped to one side, you might not have great connectivity. So this gives you a real nice options of 4 or 6 points of contact. I'm going to go through this real quick. That's a Fit Families Compare chart that's on your hard card, but it gives you everything.
But a good point is the power these things carry. And the reason they carry that thing is because of the re-engineered female contact on those connectors. So a lot of times guys were sides of big deal, nothing there. The female side is the magic. That's the side that was always the gating item for amps. So if you've got a better engineered female side of that connection, which we do with the more points of contact, the better brass, that's how we're getting some of these amps. You're looking at a 2.5 millimeter pitch. We're getting 6.5 amps per contact. That's kind of high. And then if you look all the way up on MacroFab, 23 amps a circuit at 5 millimeter pitch. That's a little high. Tyco still can't match that.
So it's a good option. Remember, when you look at the small connector on the board, if you think about a 2-circuit handling 6.5 amps, as Gus said, that's a lot of power. We also have temperature rating. And if anybody has any questions, fire them away. But here's a term that I never heard of until about 3 or 4 years. Has anybody heard of glow wire here? Okay. So here in the United States or North America, if you're designing in a coffee machine, a laptop, once you get UL approval, you're good. You can sell it anywhere in a home appliance, in an iron, a dryer, etc. In Europe, they have more stringent standards, and this glow wire is a type of resin that extinguishes quicker. We have, basically our connectors are made of 94 V2, and that might be a connector. If you see it, kind of looks glassy or translucent. That would extinguish, if there's a fire, it would extinguish within 30 seconds. We have a 94 V0, it's another type of resin. It would extinguish within about 10 to 15 seconds. So if there's a fire in the dishwasher, it's not going to add to the fire. Glow wire, the standards now, it's going to extinguish within a second or two. They light it on fire, they put a wire into a connector, and when it kept dripping into different parts of a dryer, or there's dry clothes in there. So that's a term you're going to hear. Right here in the United States, you might not hear it, but
Glow wire has to do with the way they light or try to light the connector, not necessarily the...
It's not really the wire. You're right. It's that's their term, but the wire it's wrapped with another wire, and it's on fire, and it's put into the actual connector, and it's with glow wire resin. So there's a lot of resin manufacturers, but that's what we work with, and that's kind of a lot of connector companies' secret sauce of that's what you want is a resin that's going to extinguish. It's more expensive if you don't have, if your customer is not asking for glow wire, don't worry about it. But eventually, if you're shipping product to Europe, you'll probably hear it over the next few years. So just keep that in mind. And another feature here is, does anybody have issues when they crimp a wire, they put it into a connector, and the wire comes out? So if you crimp it with an applicator tool, a proper tool, you crimp it, there's an audible click. If you pull on that, if you want to pull on that, don't be Hulk Hogan, but kind of pull on it. So it's on there pretty good. I think it's like a 25-pound pull force. But a lot of customers, you're crimping wires, you got your headphones on, you're crimping and poking, and you think it's in, and you're like, but you don't want to be yanking on the wire. So you think it's in, you test it, green means go, it's good. Now that motor goes into a washing machine, and you go buy a washing machine at Best Buy or wherever, a nice $1,000 Whirlpool machine, and after 5 cycles, it doesn't work. And a lot of times you call the Best Buy, they send a handyman over, and within like 10 minutes they fix it, and it's a wire just click back in. So in the automotive world, what they do is it's mandatory that connectors have to have they call it a TPA, a terminal position assurance. And every TPA is a little bit different, but basically here, these wires are crimped and they're put in the connector. This TPA, it locks in, and that assures you that that wire is placed all the way in. So if you look at it, we have the TPA in white and the connector in black, so it visually you can see that it's not cockeyed, it's not warped. So it's in. If those wires were not put in all the way, then the TPA would not be able to fit in. So we do. In the white goods market by like 2019, what they're saying is they want to have all connectors with TPAs. They want to make that mandatory. So on that PC board, every one of those connectors, we have a terminal position assurance option. What Gus and I like to say is engineers like it, purchase and hates it, because this might be a 20 cent, 30 cent cable assembly, but these TPAs cost about 3 cents each. So now it went from 30 cents to 42 cents. But that's giving you assurance that that washing machine is not going to break down. So you're paying more upfront, but then the warranties, and you can ask your customers, or if you do work for an OEM or a contract manufacturer, what do you pay in warranties? There's a lot of times there's warranties. So what we recommend is a terminal position assurance. Now, if it's going to a lighting that might sit up there and there's no rattling and no issues, you probably don't need a TPA if it's going to sit there for 20 years. But if it's in something that's going to be moving around, we'd recommend a terminal position assurance. If you want to pass those around, and you can take those apart. Also, some other cables we have up here, and it depends how, if it's in like a harsh environment or if you need strain relief, we have some other options. Granted, these are a lot more expensive than the crimp and pokes, but we can do overmolds. So maybe this is going to like a Lincoln Electric welder, a welder that goes out into the field, and construction workers or somebody like Black & Decker, you want something with a very good strain relief. So that's another option we have also. That's an overmolded. Here, we also have back shells. This is a less expensive version, but if you want some strain relief, but you don't want to pay for the overmold, you can go the strain relief route. Now, if it's inside a unit and nobody's touching it or monkeying with it, you can probably just go with the regular connector option. But we would just want to show you the options we have. So as I was saying about TPA, ensures that the terminals are fully loaded. Number one cause of terminal backouts. Why use a TPA? It improves the quality, and it cuts down on warranties. There's a lot of customers who are using it. There's a reason why automotive uses it. NanoFit, I'm going to go through real quick. It's a smaller 2.5 millimeter pitch connector, 6.5 amps, low profile. That's a smaller connector. Yep. And once again, it's keyed. MicroFit is one of our most versatile connectors. We have pretty much everything under the sun under this. We have surface mount, through hole, TPA. It's also on the board. It handles 18 gauge to 30 gauge wire, which is pretty good range, and it handles up to 8.5 amps. That's at 2 circuits. So it goes up to 24 circuits, but a 2 circuit would handle 8.5 amps. The higher you go in circuit size, it gets derated. So a 24 circuit connector, I'm going to guess it would probably handle about 4 to 5 amps, where a 2 circuit would handle about 8.5 amps. So for your power needs.
Question? Oh yeah, how did you decide which fit lines got wire-to-wire connectors?
Great question. So
It's only 2 of them, right?
only 2 of them, exactly. So MiniFit came out about 30 years ago, and we did it everything under the sun. We wire to wire, wire to board, board to board. MicroFit came out about 25 years ago, and we did the same options. These other 3 connectors on this board, MegaFit, UltraFit, and NanoFit, are all out within the last 3 years. So to tool up a connector, it costs a lot of money and a lot of tooling. So we came out with a wire to board option first. By January of this year, MegaFit will be wire to wire and NanoFit will be wire to wire. Probably not UltraFit yet because we haven't had a lot of need. A lot of customers, they go to MiniFit or MicroFit for wire to wire options, but that's a great question. So we will have MegaFit and NanoFit wire to wire by January. And if you have a real live application you want to look at, we have prototype parts. It's just not up on our website yet. So between myself and Gus, we could help you there.
John, we'll make something special for a big fat order though.
Correct. Yes. One other feature about MicroFit, I'll pass these around. On the single rows, if you want to use a TPA, if you look up here, the TPA is built into the single row. It's molded on the connector, so it's not a separate piece, and it folds over. That's one of the pretty nice features. If you're using real high power, this is not on this slide, but this is MiniFit Senior, and this handle goes up to 50 amps. In it, this connector is about 20 years old. We have a black on black TPA. If we would have done it now, we would have done a white TPA. It's easier to see. But this is molded in the connector and it snaps on so the terminal position cannot come off. But that would handle up to 50 amps. So that's something real high power. UltraFit is a little bit more powerful than MiniFit, would handle up to 14 amps. It's a little bit bigger, 3.5, but once again, it has TPA, and the big thing is it's color mix. So as I showed you, you have 4 options. MiniFit's our widest connector. This is amperage is wrong. It actually handles up to 13 amps. And literally we have surface mount compatible. We have endless options there, wire to wire, wire to board. Also in board to board, MicroFit and MiniFit comes in board to board. The connector that I was passing around with the TPA, that's MiniFit TPA2. That will actually handle up to 11 amps, 11.5 amps, 2 through 24 circuits. So you have a lot of options there. As in like IP67 or, okay, we do in the automotive world, in the Molex automotive connectors we do, but in the fits, these are general market connectors, so that we don't have a waterproof. We have a 2-circuit wire to wire MiniFit. We call it MiniFit H2O, but I would not recommend it. It's on our website. We sell it limited to some customers, but we don't have that option. We have a 2 and a 4 circuit. We call it value seal. It's a wire, and that's IP65.
What rating did you have? Oh, sure. We've got a whole family of sealed IP67 connectors. I just wanted John Hall and PC board connectors. Those are all sealed.
Yeah, that higher amperage one on board, what is the noise?
The noise.
Depends, I guess, on what you got in your mind. You got a more power you come to the noise. There's some of the ones where folks are wrapping it some sort of like last American slave or tuning it out otherwise. If you have more juice, if you have a big power, you're going to get the natural function. It's a matter of function of filtration. You have the sealed version.
But in the sealed, we have another PC board that came out. It's anything from 20 to 80 amps. So is that something, does anybody ever use something that big, 20 to 80 amps? Gus and I decided to walk that back because it's for example, like the fit kits we sell to, we literally have thousands of customers. But in these products, we probably have a dozen customers worldwide that are using something this big. But if you have a need for 20 to 80 amps, we have it. Unfortunately, it's not sealed.
Yeah, these are PC board rated connectors that go out wire to wire, board to board, and that's all internal. Here's a kit for that, demonstrating the higher power. Is that common for you guys? Is anybody using, whether you're using a regular 20?
I've got a battery customer that
That's common, yeah, power supplies and batteries, all suck up a lot of juice. These things, there's lots of families for those, especially if you have high.
You want to take a look at that? Oh, that's our 2080.
Otherwise, the rest of your
So another feature we have on our website, it's on Molex.com. We have it. We call it off-the-shelf connectors, off-the-shelf cables. And a lot of times, I think what we've all probably done in this room, you want to do some crimps, and you have to get a hand tool. I don't know how everybody's at crimping. I've been crimping for many years, and I'm not any good at it. It takes me like a minute to crimp.
It's a black art, I tell you. It's a very special.
So you have to get the terminal, you have to prep the wire, you have to get the hand tool.
have to use this type of tool.
You could. But what we have, and every one of these fit connectors, we have off-the-shelf cables. So we have a 6-inch wire, double-ended. We have a 12-inch and an 18-inch. So if you would go Molex.com off the shelf, it would give you all the options. You could say mini fit, micro fit, ultra fit, and we could send that to you. So here you get a cable, 12 inches, and you might go, I only need 8.8. You could cut it off and you can recrimp it, or you could at least, whether you're a cable house or if you're working with a cable house, you could say, here's a prototype. We want it just like this, but instead of 12 inches, 8.8 inches. But it gives you a good feel on these type of cable assemblies.
Stock of these things too, it's been a big seller. It's very experimental for Molex. They took the risk of taking okay, what family are we going to do this? We're going to pre-crimp, preload cable assemblies that are now, not really saleable anybody unless you want them. So they Mauser, Highlands, all of our authorized distributors are stocking these systems now. And depending on how popular they go, they started with John's line, which is
I'll pass these around if you want to take a look.
the nice thing is they're available in distribution, and you're not crimping and folding, you're buying it, and it's ready to go.
And I think DigiKey and Mauser, you can call them up to, I think probably everybody in this room probably uses those distributors. I think you can call them up to 8 o'clock and they'll ship it out. I mean, you're paying for it, it's not cheap, but if you need something quick, they're really good at it, and they have a lot of off-the-shelf cables. So that's a general overview. Any questions, any concerns with Molex? Anything Gus or I could help you with?
They're good, by the way, I don't want any bad luck.
I would say there's endless competitors in the connector market, and challenge me if I'm saying something that I'm wrong, but I would say, like in that fit kit, if you want to find one of those parts, you go on Molex.com, you go to the far right side, you click distribution. We have distribution stock. So we battle with our competitors. They have some darn good connectors also, but we have readily available. Now there might be some wacky gold 14 circuit version that we might not have, but a lot of the general 2 through 12 circuits we have somewhere in the US that we can get you pretty quick. Yeah.
Any comments or questions about, I learned something on glow wire. I hear the term, and I sell the stuff, I hear it all the time, and I always wondered, glow wire? Actually,
I-
I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the power connector? Patented, sorry. We'd love to, but yeah, I think they got Apple has a patent on that rascal. Well, we looked at it. Oh, yeah, it's a tough one. But I've been asked about it before. It's a good question.
Yeah. But we're a connector company. We're based out of Lisle, Illinois, western suburb of Chicago. We've been around about 82 years, something like that. And we're the second biggest. Tyco's the biggest connector company. We're number 2. Us or Amphenol, depends what day of the week it is. But our have we? Sure. The weirdest?
What are you talking about personally for John? Molex is a company?
The weirdest order was a company in Ohio. I won't say their name, and we went there, and I said, "What do you guys make? Voting booths?" And they said, "No, we build cables for porno shops." So that's my weirdest. So I never went back because I didn't want to get in trouble.
Hey, serve the market, you know?
But our big thing is we want to design, and we can. If you're designing here, we can support you, and we can support you anywhere. We have Gus and I. We work directly for Molex.
We make them, but there's lots of authorized distributors for
Yep.
Avnet, Arrow, Highland, Lord TTI, Sager, Westcard.
Yep.
There's a number of authorized distributors for a lot of venues there. Design.
I'm one of many product managers from Molex, and Monday I was in Dallas training to 4 of our different distributors. So our distributors, they sell a lot of different products, but they have a good understanding, and their role is to be a scout, get in front of customers, and help you get products as quick as you can.
Who are you based, Chicago?
I'm based in Chicago, yep. So I was an inside salesperson. I didn't know anything in 1993. The phone rang off the hook. I read something that my company, the wealthiest person in Illinois, was Oprah Winfrey. Number 2 and number 3 were the owners of our company, and that's what I knew about them. And hey, I like it. It's better than Chicago, But no, I'll be back in the winter. Yeah.
I'm a local guy. I cover Houston, San Antonio, Austin, New Orleans when I have to.
But we have what, roughly? How many people we have in Texas? 6, 5?
Yeah, we're the office is based in Austin, but we've got a regional, so probably 6 or 8. But there's a regional, our district manager, myself, and then the area. So there's helps, and then there's the website, and then I've got some business cards here that I'll be happy to help you. I'm going to get a spreadsheet from lovely Iris over there, and she'll let me know who's here, and I'll send you guys notes and so forth, so you'll have a live connection.
What's the point of the board if you have the wires? Why would you connect wires here and there as long as you have something?
It's powering up the board. So let's say you have a.
What's the reason for? I can't see any devices on it.
This is just, we just put a lot of different options on this. It's just a demo board. So it's not powering up anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, this is display board.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we just put as much as connectors we can fit on there. So
Oh, so this is like a demo.
just a demo board. Yep. Sure. Yep.
That's it, guys. Thank you so much for your time. Ladies and gentlemen,
Thank you. Thank you.
John and Gus will stick around. Of course, if you have any other questions for them. Did everybody get a raffle ticket, either a blue one or a white one? If there's anybody that didn't get one, please let me
just
know.
had John for an hour.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wait, that's a movie prize.
I'll juggle for you. Yeah.
We'll let you draw the winner.
Okay.